The criteria I use is it needs to be unique, desirable, people want it, specific, succinct, and memorable. So in other words, for me, my value prop is I create conversion-focused copy for B2B health and fitness brands, leveraging insight experience from both sides of the industry. That sums up everything I do. So it's unique, it's desirable. Who doesn't want conversion-focused copy?
Welcome to How to Build a Profitable Nutrition Business. If you love nutrition and you love helping people and you want to be in the game long enough to keep doing that, then this is the podcast for you. Let's get into it. There's something that we're not really taught at university or through our training, or at least not when I went through, that can have such a profound impact on your business and the ability to generate new business and have the impact that you desire to have. And that's the art of creating good copy. Today, I've got a guest on who has worked in the health industry and is now a world-renowned copywriter. And she's got some great tips to help you in your nutrition business create good, impactful copy that will have the impact that your business desires. Let's get into it. Welcome back to How to Build a Profitable Nutrition Business. Today, I'm really excited to have an awesome guest all the way from Arizona in the US. And her name is Linda Melone. And she's a really perfect guest for our podcast because Linda's background is in food and fitness, but she's transitioned to a space that all nutrition professionals in that business space can really dive into and learn a lot from. And Linda, I'm going to hand over to you. So firstly, thank you for coming on. But if you can give everyone a little background about where you started, a bit of a reveal as a pastry chef, and how you went through the health industry and landed to where you are right now.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for having me. Yeah, I started out in the food business like many years ago, more years ago than I would care to admit. I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition, and I thought I was going to become a dietitian and ended up getting more into the fitness end of things. But before that, I was working in restaurants and I was a pastry chef. I actually had a bakery. So I've been accused of creating my own clientele because then I went on to become a personal trainer. But the thing that's been consistent through all the years I've done with the food, and it was really personal training for about 15 years. And then I got into writing there was a local publication, a business publication called OC Metro, it was Orange County, California. And they had a column, a fitness column. And I was reading it, and I've always loved writing. I always had a knack for it, never really pursued it until this point. I thought I could write this. So since I was doing in-home personal training, I thought, why not pitch how to set up your home gym? Because people didn't know how to do it, and they were buying. I had most of my clients, I got them through a local gym equipment store. So when I went in there, and this is before I knew anything about marketing, I just used like common sense. I walked into the store, met the manager and said, hey, when you sell a piece of equipment for home gym, would you be willing to offer a free session with a personal trainer? That would be me. And that would just go along with it. And he said, that would be great. It was a win for him. He wasn't paying me anything. So they would sell, say, a home gym, even if it was a treadmill. And then if they'd ask the person, would you be interested? 9 out of 10 times that person would become a client because I would tell them a lot of good stuff and I wouldn't write anything down. And they were like, could you come back? And it's such a personal one-on-one thing. They get to meet me. So I started doing that, but I was writing for this publication and ended up branching out into the national magazine. So I had a column in Oxygen, the woman's magazine, for a while. I wrote for pretty much you name any fitness magazine. And I don't know if it's the same in Australia, like Men's Fitness and with all the big glossies, they call them. And then the whole industry went under about 2014. Everything went online. I had these big gigs that were they went under, and they just said, we're not using freelancers anymore. And if you Google my name, because I have an unusual spelling of my last name, you'll see a lot of bylines still by me because they're repurposing everything. So it looks like I'm still writing for them, but I haven't since like 2015.
Oh, wow.
And so I started a online business for women over 50 because I'm in that demographic. And so I thought, okay, I know what this is about. I've been working with all these women. I know what their pain points are. And so I had a course. I did that for 5 years. I just couldn't, there's so much churn with memberships. It's hard, And so I just said, let me go back to writing, but I didn't want to do content. I wanted to do copywriting. I wanted to get into the marketing end of it because I'd been in it. I had been writing for Bowflex even. I met some of the marketing people at an event and they hired me. And so that's a long answer to a short question, but that's how I ended up where I
Perfect.
am.
Yeah, wow. It's such an important space, isn't it? Because we are essentially competing for attention, like in the nutrition
Yeah.
space, and particularly, and you could probably relate to this for sure, is that for us as dietitians, I'm a dietitian and personal trainers are very similar, is that, we're working from an evidence-based background. We've got principles that we need to abide by. And the issue is that you get into this nutrition space and anyone can put up information and it can look credible to people that aren't really familiar with what to look for. And so
Right.
how do you then sort of stand out that, because you, like for us as dietitians, I think the States is the same. We actually can't do testimonials, which
Oh,
that,
really?
yeah, we're not allowed to do testimonials because it can be perceived as I could get anyone to do a testimonial. So it's got to be evidence-based. And the problem is, as you'd be aware with marketing, is that word of mouth and, testimonials from people that they know is one of the most powerful forms of marketing. We're
Right.
hamstrung. And so it's really then competitive to have a good copy when you're trying to generate your business. You want to be successful. You need to have a good nutrition business to have the impact on the clients that you want to work with. But
Right.
it's such a challenge. So what tips would you have for anyone in this nutrition space to really stand out, but still stay credible and evidence-based guidelines?
The number one thing is you want to have a really great, unique value proposition. So this is what the statement that's going to set you apart from everyone else, or it's something no one else is talking about. It doesn't mean that you have to be completely different, but maybe you talk about what you do differently. The criteria I use is it needs to be unique, desirable, people want it, specific, succinct, and memorable. So in other words, for me, my value prop is I create conversion focused copy for B2B health and fitness brands, leveraging insight experience from both sides of the industry. That sums up everything I do. So it's unique, it's desirable. Who doesn't want conversion focused copy? For a B2B health and fitness brands, who is it for? Leveraging insider experience. That's something that separates me from other copywriters.
Yeah.
You can write about fitness and nutrition by researching it, or it's a whole different thing. When you're in it in the industry, you have a whole different perspective than someone who's just reading. But
Yeah.
everyone who's reading thinks they know about it. And so that comes down to niching down. So how, because there's people I know who specialize in childhood nutrition or certain groups, or just they specialize in working with people with diabetes, that kind of thing. And so how do you differentiate yourself instead of just saying I'm a nutritionist? Isn't really a term. That's anyone can use that. And so then it's also what's your brand and what's your story? I know you always hear this, people who've lost a ton of weight who then go on to become like coaches. It gives
Yeah.
them credibility because they've been there. And if someone needs to lose weight, they're going to say, this person knows how hard it is. So you have your story, and then just being consistent across all your channels with it. So you take your brand, find your value prop, get the branding down. This is how I want to present myself, and then make sure it's consistent through every channel.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So unique, desirable. What was the other one?
succinct, specific, and memorable.
Okay. Specific and memorable.
I
Okay.
was trying to get it to form an acronym, but there's none that made sense. It's like UDSM. But yeah, it's just as long as it's different, people want it, and it's something that was relatively short and that people will remember. So like, she's the one that does this, or he's the guy that is known for this thing.
So with that being memorable, the headline, the scroll stopper, as they say with social media, is so important. Have you got any tips around that? Because ultimately now in our feeds, we're trading for attention, aren't we? So it's like, what advice would you give around a headline that's really going to stop and have someone pause on your content or your message?
Or your email, right? To open up
Or your
your
email, yeah, subject lines.
subject
Yeah,
line.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but there's a few things. And one of them is to keep in mind that 80% of people are not going to get past your headline or your subject line because everyone's scrolling. And so you have I mean, only 20% are going to make it to the body of whatever it is you're writing. So you want to keep it short. Now, the general rule is 6 to 8 words. It varies because I've worked with a couple of copywriting coaches, real high level ones, and they say it's either make it really short or really long. Are you familiar with BuzzFeed? I don't know if they have BuzzFeed out. Okay, so BuzzFeed, sometimes they have these ridiculously long headlines, and that's an example of catching people with something that's way long. But spend most of your time coming up with a headline. What I do for my own copy, whether it's an email or copy for a website, is I write the body copy first. And then I start, and I do use AI too sometimes. I'll pop it in. The only thing I don't like about using AI for coming up with titles, I use it for brainstorming. I never use what it comes up with because it always uses what we call marketing speak. Those marketing words are real fluffy and top tier or next level. It's stop. Everyone uses those words.
I found that myself. I use AI to generate ideas, but I find they tend to use words that the email filters don't like. So there's words like free and giveaway and what, like those sort of words, and they're a red flag for a lot of the email filters. So you immediately get pushed into the junk or spam or if we're looking at Outlook, they've got focused and the other emails. So you tend to get pushed if you use that language, and I find that's what AI tends to do.
Yeah, that's the other negative part. I try to write, the goal is like to come up with 50 headlines. That's a lot. I usually get around 20, walk away from it. And then, because I do this with any copy, do something else, go for a walk, work out, or whatever, and come back and then look at it again, because it's a whole different story when you walk away from your copy and come back to it. There are some apps that you can use. There's a headline analyzer. I think it's actually called that, headline analyzer. It's free.
Wow.
I can send you the link to it if you like. It's
yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's just headlineanalyzer.com. And it'll give you a percentage, like it'll come up with a percentage of, I don't even know what the percentage is, but the higher the better, the more likely it is to be opened or read. And it will tell you. And usually you want to get 30 to 40% or higher. And most of the time when I really work on something and it's going to be catchy, it's like around 50, sometimes 60%. And it's things like numbers work, like 7 ways to blah, blah. Those are good ones. How to is a big one. It also depends on what you're writing. What is relevant?
Do you think just the psychology of that numbers, because I've heard that before, right? That the numbers work, top 10 things to do this or whatever. Do you think the psychology of it is that people can then guess how long it's going to take them, how much of their time it's going to use? If it's like top 5 things to do this, it's like, I've only got to look at 5 things. Because
that's probably part of it. Yeah.
I personally look at this top 20 things. I'm like, I probably don't.
It's too long. Yeah. Then you just said it there. It's also that it's just in small bites, like people will, oh, good, it's a list. I don't have to read through all of this stuff. But the headline itself should be clear, not too clever. People try to be cutesy in the headlines, and it has to say something about what people can expect if they open that email or when they click on that button or whatever it is. No one likes to be tricked. And that's why clickbait is so bad. You want to be authentic. But some of the side notes is using lowercase for your subject line in an email seems to work better. You probably get, you haven't heard that? Yeah, like dashing off. You're dashing off an email to a friend. You're not going to be worried about punctuation and capitalizing and everything. And anything that's in title case is automatically seen as, oh, this is newsletter. So put it in just a lowercase and make it conversational if it's an email. That's why I get a lot of good responses with my emails. It's like you're talking to somebody. If you're telling somebody about your product or service, how would you describe it? You just met them for lunch and they go, oh, what do you do? Those are the words you want to use. People tend to get very formal when they get on a page and they start using words they don't usually use, or it sounds like they're at some kind of ball. So you have to you want to use power words though, even though you want to be conversational, but things like discover, proven methods, that's a good one, especially when you're writing something that has to be backed with research backed. 7 research backed ways to get rid of belly fat. There's something like that.
Yeah.
Anything to do with belly fat's going to get open. You know that.
Can I put you on the spot?
Uh-oh.
Don't be nervous. Can you come up with a headline for the email for this podcast?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on what we see. And here's the thing. I want to see everything we talk about.
Okay,
What
yeah.
is it? So if it's how to stand out in a competitive industry, or how to stand out in the nutrition industry, or 7 ways, whatever, how many ways we come up with, 7 ways to separate yourself. Or I can't just do it off the top of my head. I'd have to really sit down. I need to write those 20 things, but something like that, 7 ways or how to.
Stopped, and I would have opened all of those. So they were very good.
There you go. And it comes down to testing. Like
Yeah.
even with my newsletter, I have a newsletter that goes out and I do A/B testing,
Yeah.
try 2 different headlines. And do you do that with, I don't know if you have a
I use
newsletter.
Kajabi, and Kajabi has just brought in not so long ago an A/B test, so you can send out multiple headlines. Yeah, yeah, and it'll run a test on them, so that's good. Yeah, yeah, it's so important, isn't it? It's you were talking a bit about the clickbait before, because I agree, it's a fine line, isn't it? Like the clickbait headlines, like I read the news and I'm like, oh, geez, that sounds interesting, but then you get there and I knew that's what it was going to be. I've been tricked. So they got me. I opened it, which is what I want when I send an email. I want someone to open it, but I want to be authentic. I don't want them to feel cheated. So it is a bit of a balancing act, isn't it? Like it's about trying to get their attention and get them intrigued about what's in this email, but at the same time, deliver on what you're promising.
And because once you lose the trust of somebody when they read your headline, if they find that they get to the body of it, especially if it's an email, because I've had so many of those, I'm sure you do too, that the headline has nothing to do, or lately there's some weirdness going on too with emails. And I had one, and somebody else said they had this happen to them, where they said in the subject line, "My boss is worried about you," or something like that. I'm like, who is this? And I open it up and it says, "So-and-so, my boss, head of whatever this company, said that you're not responding to his emails and he's concerned." And it's, who are you? It was, and somebody else in LinkedIn had talked about this. It's like it's a attempt to be, I forget what it was called, like fake intimacy, like we're concerned about you. And don't do stuff like that. They're really going all out to get you to open it, and you lose them. Like I'd never work with that person.
Yeah, so that's right. So they've succeeded in opening the email, but you've lost their trust. You've lost all credibility, and the point of the email is a waste of time then anyway. Yeah.
The goal isn't to open your email. The goal is to have them take action on whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're just going to anger them.
Yeah.
With the AI, if we can dive into that a little bit, it's obviously growing at a rate of knots. It can really help with copy. But like I say to my kids, some teachers at the school are a little bit against AI, but I think it's something we need to embrace. But I still don't think we're at a point where it's replacing humans. I just think it's actually taking a lot of the legwork out for us. But you still need that human touch. You've got to read it and add your own personal insights to it. Is that what you would recommend, or do you have any advice around using AI for creating copy?
What I use AI for, and this is anyone who has a business can do this, is when you're interviewing customers. I've done this a number of times, and it's always very helpful. I record interviews, put the transcript into AI and say, can you pull out the main points? What's most important about this conversation? It's amazing because it saves so much time. Otherwise, you have to go through it yourself. One of the most helpful things, I was writing for a client who claimed she had 4 different personas. And so she said, but I need a homepage for all 4 of them. I'm like, how are we going to do this? So she sent me details about all 4 personas. So I put them all into AI and I said, what are the commonalities between these 4? And it pulled it out. And it was perfect. So it's a time saver. I don't use it for writing because I never like what it writes, because it can only pull from what's already been written, right? So you're going to get stuff that's been said a million times. Yeah. And it seems to like certain words, all the marketing speak, top notch, top rated, best in class. I always think about dog shows when I hear that, by the way. Don't you?
Yeah, I will now. That does certainly have a dog show ring to it.
But it's great for data, for collecting data. It's great for personalizing. If you wanted to create personal experiences, just to put in the data for the persona, what would this person like? Or I've even asked it, what kind of conversations with somebody in this business, what do they talk about? And they can pull from some social media. I do it manually too. I'll get into Reddit and see what are people talking about. It just speeds up things. And then testing. And yeah, I just find it's really good for organizing, outlining.
Yeah.
Even for this discussion today, I asked it, what are the most important things that I need to cover? This is what the topic is.
Yeah, love it.
I love AI because it's like, it talks to you like a person. You're gonna do a great job.
Well,
It tells, yeah.
it's interesting. Like whenever I use ChatGPT for the most part. I'm always very polite. I'm like, hi,
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Thank you so much for that. Because I think one day they're going to own us. I'm like, we're
Everyone says that. I know. One day they're going to turn on us and they're going to remember who was rude to them. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So in that health and wellness space, which is where we're at, what advice would you have for creating converting copy? Okay, so copy that is really going to get a potential client across the line that someone in that health and wellness space can use to really influence a decision of their potential clients. Have you got any advice around that?
You want to keep in mind that people make decisions that's based on emotions. We justify it with logic, but we make emotional decisions. And it's never more true than in the health and fitness world because it's such an emotionally charged, so much of it that's emotionally charged. So empathy, and this is something AI cannot do for you. You want to have empathy for who you're writing for. So for example, I had a client who had a product that helped with the side effects of chemotherapy. So I spoke to people who were using the product and I asked them, walk me through a day. And it was a product that really helped with the side effects. It was amazing. And people were saying, well, before I used this product, I wasn't able to get through the day because I always had to know where there was a bathroom, all this awful stuff. And so you want to, not that you want to include all those specifics, but you have to have that empathy for the people that you're writing for. That's why to me, when I see these, they call it bro marketing, the real loud and, oh, you're gonna lose, you're gonna gain all this muscle and you're gonna lose all this weight. And so for somebody, say for a 50-year-old woman, she doesn't want to hear that. This is, you have to know what is it that they're struggling with. And you use those words in your copy. I think that's the number one thing. And then you want to focus on the transformation, like how they're going to feel, how much better they're going to feel, what they're going to be able to do. Now, as I mentioned, my course was all for women over 50. So it wasn't about getting the six-pack abs. It was about being able to get up off the floor so when they play with their grandkids, like it was that sort of thing. They didn't care about the same things like a 30-year-old bodybuilder would care about. So what is it that they're talking about? What are they, what's their biggest challenge and their biggest worries, and address that and show how. First you have to show them you understand what they're going through, and then and here's a solution that could help you, that approach. But you really have to have that emotional intelligence. You can't just expect. Yeah.
Why you're perfect for the position, given that you've got that lived experience in the industry, so you can really relate to the copy that needs to be done.
And what not to say. Like, for example, you never address, I don't care if somebody's 200 years old, you never use the word elderly in your copy.
Yeah.
I don't care. People who are 85 are like, I don't consider myself elderly. So we should just get rid of that word completely. But you don't know. I didn't know that when I first started out, and not that I used it, but I didn't think there was anything wrong with it until I started working with women who were extremely insulted, and it's okay. It's like, you have to know.
I guess there's no faster way to turn off a potential client than insult them.
Yeah.
What about humor? Do you use much humor in your copy? Do you think it can be relevant?
I'm known as that funny friend. Like you can even tell. I find lightness in everything because I think life is too short. So if you can relate to your client in a way that is somewhat humorous, I think it's really helpful, because being serious and really, say, for example, with weight loss, like I had women that wanted to lose weight, and I would describe, okay, so you're lying on the bed trying to zip up your pants. If you were tired of that, like, you describe the scenario in a way that's funny, but you have to be careful because there's always those fine lines, and you have to know where they are. And you're probably going to insult some people. Well, shouldn't say insult. Not everyone will find it funny. So you have to know your audience.
Yeah.
We have like Nerd Fitness. They are big. I don't know if you heard of them.
No.
I forget the owner's name, but his whole website is about being nerdy. He's really successful. He's got a huge business. If you're a nerd, if you're like, and he has these really goofy looking people on the homepage, this is your new home or something. And he gets great results for people. So I think that's the thing too, is you have to be knowledgeable, as well as you can joke around within a certain extent, but you have to know that they have to know you're going to deliver on what you're selling too.
Yes, yeah, ultimately. It's everything you've talked about there. There's a real art to creating good copy, which sort of ties into a whole story. Like you're telling a story about yourself and making yourself relatable to your clients or potential clients. Is that a fair summary?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to know that you get them. It's like going to a doctor or something who, someone who it just doesn't seem like they understand you, or they're not listening to you. There's nothing worse. Then you feel like, why am I even here? And yeah, I worked with clients in home. So I'd go into the middle of arguments. I walk in the house and it's just very uncomfortable. And I've dealt with all different situations, you name it. I've had to come up against it. And you just learn what to say, what not to say, and kind of listen. I think the most important thing is really listening to what people are telling you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because most people, don't
clinicians, personal trainers generally should be good listeners based on their experience in the industry. So that's really good advice. I like that. So you really got to listen and understand your client. And it's what you would buy, isn't it? Like you got to think, what would make me buy?
Right.
Yeah. Linda, thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing.
Oh, thank you.
How could any potential nutrition professionals, fitness professionals looking to create some converting copy, how could they work with you or learn more about you? Or if you've got a blog, can you share it here and we'll put it in the show notes?
Sure. Yeah. I'm at thecopyworks, WORX.com. And you can email me at linda@thecopyworks.com. And I have a bunch of freebies on my site. I can also give you the links. You can put them here. I have one PDF on how to add humor, another's on using power words. The other is how to avoid using marketing speak, which is all the fluffy words. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Oh, brilliant.
And I have my own podcast. So there's that. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, B2B marketing and copywriting podcast.
There you go. We'll put both of those in there because that would be great for people to jump on and subscribe and listen, because it's one of those things that it's a skill that we're not taught in our training or at university, and it's such an essential skill to survive in the business space. So your work is very much needed and very much valued.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you, Linda. Did you find this podcast valuable? There may be other nutrition professionals out there will also. If you like, share, and subscribe, it's going to help other nutrition professionals make an impact on the world just like you. Thanks.